My husband ignored my calls the entire day. When he finally walked in close to midnight, he wore that same careless smile, as if nothing in the world was wrong. Then, without a hint of shame, he told me he'd slept with his female boss, and didn't regret it. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I simply finished my dinner in silence. But the next morning, when he woke expecting breakfast and coffee, he got something else entirely. Something that ended everything. If you are watching this, don't forget to like, share, and comment where you are watching from. I want to see how far my story of betrayal has traveled. My name is Elena Vasquez. I'm 45 years old, and I'm sitting at our dining table staring at a plate of pasta that went cold an hour ago, wondering when exactly I stopped recognizing the man I married. For the past 8 years, I've been a freelance graphic designer working from our 3-bedroom colonial house in Maplewood, New Jersey, the kind of quiet suburban life I chose deliberately after burning out from corporate marketing agencies in Manhattan. I design websites, create brand identities, build logos for small businesses and startups, work that pays well enough and lets me stay creative while maintaining the flexibility to support my husband's more demanding career. Because that's what we agreed on when we got married 14 years ago, that I would be the steady foundation while he climbed the corporate ladder. My husband's name is Adrian, 47 years old, and until very recently, I thought I knew everything about him. Adrian works as a senior financial analyst at a mid-sized investment firm in downtown Manhattan, where he's been employed for the past 5 years. Before that, he bounced between other companies, always climbing, always hungry for the next promotion. He's the ambitious one in our marriage, the man with the plan, with career goals mapped out in meticulous 5-year increments and a vision board covering half our home office wall with images of corner offices and executive titles. When we met 16 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party in some forgettable bar in Brooklyn, I was working at a design agency making decent money, and he was mid-level at a marketing firm, wearing tailored suits and carrying himself with the kind of quiet confidence that drew people to him like gravity. We dated for 2 years before he proposed, and those were perhaps the happiest years of my life. Adrian back then was attentive in ways I'd never experienced before. He e-bricker back then, I thought we were building something, a partnership, a life. I supported his dreams like they were my own. When he wanted to go back for his MBA, I worked double shifts to cover rent. When he landed the interview at Holt Dynamics, I stayed up until 3 a.m. helping him rehearse his pitch. When he got promoted to senior analyst, I bought champagne. I told everyone at the party that we did it, because that's what it felt like. We, us, together. But somewhere along the way, we became him, and I became this. A woman sitting alone in the dark eating cold pasta, wondering when everything shifted. The signs were there. I see that now. 3 months ago, he started coming home later. Big project, he'd say, loosening his tie, barely looking at me. Then it was twice a week, then 4 times. Now it's almost every night. He stopped asking about my day. Stopped laughing at my jokes. Stopped looking at me the way he used to, like I was someone worth seeing. Now when he looks at me, his eyes slide past, like I'm furniture, like I'm part of the house he walks through but doesn't really live in anymore. Last month, I noticed he started showering the moment he got home, every single time, straight to the bathroom, door locked, water running for 20 minutes. When I asked why, he said he felt gross after sitting in traffic. I nodded. I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to. 2 weeks ago, I found a charge on our credit card, a florist. Expensive roses, delivered to an address I didn't recognize. When I asked about it, he said it was for a client's wife. Networking, he explained. I smiled and said that was thoughtful. Inside, something cracked. She then tonight. Tonight, didn't even bother with excuses until he got home. I hear his car now, the low rumble of the engine pulling into the driveway. My heart starts pounding. My hands grip the fork so tight my knuckles go white. I don't know why I'm nervous. This is my husband, the man I've loved for 10 years. The front door opens, closes. His keys hit the bowl in the hallway. Footsteps. Casual. Unhurried. He walks into the kitchen smiling, smiling, like this is just another Tuesday night, like he hasn't ignored 15 calls and left me sitting here drowning in silence. He's still in his suit, tie loosened, top button undone, and there's something else, a scent. Faint, floral, expensive, perfume. Not mine, I don't wear perfume. He leans down and kisses my forehead. Hey, babe. Sorry I'm late. I look up at him, fork still in hand, voice steady. Where were you? He doesn't even hesitate. Client dinner ran late. You know how it is. He says it like it's obvious, like I should have known, like I'm silly for even asking. I don't push. I don't ask which client, which restaurant, why his phone didn't work for 12 hours. I just nod. Okay. And I go back to my cold pasta. He pours himself a glass of whiskey, pulls out his phone, and starts scrolling. He doesn't ask if I'm okay, doesn't notice the untouched wine, doesn't see me at all. We sit there in silence. Him on his phone. Me pushing food around my plate. The distance between us feels like miles. I finish eating because I don't know what else to do. He drains his glass, yawns, and says he's going to bed. I stay at the table long after he's gone. The house is quiet again. But this time, the silence doesn't press against me. It sits beside me. A companion. A witness. I clean up slowly, washing dishes I don't remember dirtying, wiping counters that are already clean. Later, I lie in bed next to him. He's already asleep, snoring softly. I stare at the ceiling, counting the shadows, listening to the sound of his breathing. And I whisper into the dark, so quietly he can't possibly hear, when did I become the woman who stops asking questions? But I already know the answer. I became her the moment I realized the truth. I already know what's happening. I already know where he was, who he was with. I'm just afraid to say it out loud, because once I do, everything changes, and I'm not ready for that. Not yet. So I close my eyes and pretend to sleep, and I let the ice keep spreading. 3 days later, I'm in the laundry room folding Adrian's clothes on autopilot, my hands moving through the familiar motions, because staying busy means I don't have to think. I reach into his suit jacket pocket, checking for loose change and forgotten receipts like I always do, and my fingers close around a crumpled piece of paper. I pull it out and smooth it flat against my palm, and suddenly the entire room goes still. The Grandview Hotel and Spa, executive suite. 1 night, $847.63, 3 weeks ago. My hands freeze as the date registers in my brain, and I sink to the bathroom floor, back against the cold tile, staring at proof I wasn't ready to find. 3 weeks ago, I remember that weekend perfectly now, how he kissed me goodbye Friday morning saying he had a work conference in the city. He came home Sunday night smelling like hotel soap and expensive cologne, asked what was for dinner, smiled like nothing had happened. The Grandview isn't in the city. It's 2 hours north in wine country, the kind of place couples go for romance and privacy, not business conferences. I grab my laptop with shaking hands and log into our bank account, scrolling back through weeks of transactions I've been too afraid to examine closely. And there it is, a trail I should have seen months ago. Rosewood Restaurant, $230. Black car service, $95. Multiple late-night rides. Bella Flora Boutique, $340. The florist charge I asked about, the one he said was for a client's wife, for networking purposes. Every lie funded by our joint account, every betrayal paid for with money we earned together, and he didn't even bother hiding it well. That evening when Adrian comes home, I'm waiting at the kitchen island with the receipt laid between us like evidence at trial. He walks in relaxed and casual, reaches for a beer, barely glances at the paper when I slide it across the counter toward him. It was for a client, corporate booking. They reimbursed us. He says, his voice so bored it's almost insulting, like I'm bothering him with paperwork. Then he adds the words that change everything, you're overthinking again. Abrich again. That word lands like a slap, and suddenly I can hear every other time he's dismissed my questions, made me doubt my own instincts. When someone tells you you're overthinking, they're really saying, stop noticing what I'm doing, stop trusting yourself, stop asking questions. He's been gaslighting me for months, training me to doubt my own perception, making me feel crazy for seeing what's right in front of me. I don't argue this time. I just nod, take the receipt back, and walk away while something inside me hardens into something cold and sharp. That night, I call Lila, my voice breaking, and whisper, "I think I need help. Real help." She doesn't ask questions, just says she'll be there in 20 minutes, and the next day she hands me a business card, Jonah Patel, private investigator. I slip it into my wallet next to the crumpled hotel receipt. 2 pieces of paper that together weigh nothing but carry the weight of my entire future. This is the moment I stop being his wife and start becoming someone he should have feared. 2 weeks pass, and in that time I become someone I don't recognize, someone who smiles at her husband over breakfast while paying a private investigator to follow him. Jonah Patel took my case without judgment, just calm professionalism, and a promise to document every late night, every client dinner, every lie Adrian thinks I still believe. I go through the motions of our marriage like an actor playing a role, and I'm getting disturbingly good at pretending nothing has changed. Adrian has no idea that his secrets are being photographed, time-stamped, and filed away for a purpose he can't imagine yet. Tonight, he comes home just after midnight, visibly drunk in a way I haven't seen in years, stumbling slightly as he catches himself on the wall. I'm sitting at the dining table with wine and a book I'm not reading, just turning pages to look normal, to look occupied. He pours himself water with unsteady hands and does something unexpected. He sits down across from me, staring at the table like he's gathering courage. Without warning, without any preamble, he says 5 words that stop my heart. "I need to tell you something. I slept with someone," he says, his voice flat and matter-of-fact, like he's reporting the weather or telling me he stopped for gas. Miranda Holt, my boss. It happened after a work event. I couldn't help myself, and the words land between us like stones dropping into still water. My world doesn't explode, it just stops, frozen mid-rotation, everything suspended in this one terrible moment where I can never unhear what he's saying. I don't cry. Don't scream. Just sit there with my fork halfway to my mouth, staring at this stranger who used to be my husband. But then he says something worse. Something that cracks whatever composure I'm barely holding on to. I don't regret it, honestly. She makes me feel alive again. Alive. Like our 10 years together have been death. Like loving me has been suffocation. Like I'm a burden instead of the woman who built his entire life. He confessed like he was telling me about the weather, casual, unbothered, almost bored, and that's when I knew he'd stopped seeing me as human. I'm just an obstacle now, an inconvenience in the way of whatever fantasy he's building with her in expensive hotels and late-night calls. I don't give him the reaction he's expecting, and instead, I pick up my fork and continue eating, chewing slowly, deliberately, each bite mechanical and measured. He watches with growing frustration because this isn't how this scene was supposed to play out. He expected tears, drama, thrown dishes, a fight. My silence unnerves him more than any tantrum could, and I can see confusion and something like fear flickering across his drunk features. "Aren't you going to say anything?" he finally asks, voice rising, and I stand slowly, gathering my plate with steady hands. "I have nothing to say to you right now," I tell him, and walk upstairs without looking back, leaving him sitting there in confused frustration. That night I don't sleep, just lie in the guest room staring at the ceiling, replaying his words, understanding finally that this isn't just infidelity. It's cruelty. His confession wasn't honesty. It was arrogance, the arrogance of a man who thought I'd accept anything, forgive anything, stay no matter what he did. He thought my silence meant surrender, but really it meant something far more dangerous. He'd just handed me every weapon I'd ever need to destroy him. Jonah's call comes 3 days after Adrian's confession, and his voice has an edge I haven't heard before. Calm but urgent, professional but concerned. "We need to meet today. As soon as possible, there's something you need to see," he says, and my stomach drops because I know that tone means he's found something worse than I imagined. I agree to meet him at a quiet cafe across town, somewhere Adrian would never go, somewhere I can fall apart if I need to without witnesses who know me. When I arrive, Jonah is already there in a corner booth, and there's a brown envelope on the table between us that looks completely ordinary but feels radioactive. I slide into the seat across from him, wrapping my hands around a coffee cup I ordered just to have something to hold, something to keep my hands from shaking. "You might want to brace yourself before you open this," Jonah says quietly, pushing the envelope toward me with careful fingers, like it might explode if handled roughly. I take a breath and open it, and the first things I see are photographs. Adrian and Miranda kissing in a parking lot, their hands tangled in each other's hair. More photos, hotel check-ins with timestamps, restaurant receipts, text messages with explicit content that makes my stomach turn. Proof of everything I already knew, but seeing it makes it real. But then I flip to the next section, and my entire world tilts sideways in a way that has nothing to do with heartbreak, and everything to do with survival. Bank records showing fraudulent transfers, company funds being funneled into offshore accounts, and there at the bottom of every document is my signature, my name in my handwriting on papers I never signed. I stare at my own name on these documents, and the reality crashes over me like ice water. If this scheme collapses, I won't just lose my marriage, I'll lose my freedom. "They're setting you up as the scapegoat," Jonah explains gently, watching my face carefully. "If anyone investigates, all the evidence points to you. Your signatures are on everything. He didn't just cheat on me, didn't just fall in love with someone else. He tried to erase me, tried to turn me into a criminal who'd take the fall for their theft. That's when I realized with crystal clarity that mercy was never an option, that forgiveness would be suicide, that I'm not fighting to save a marriage anymore. I'm fighting for my life. I don't cry, don't let myself feel anything except the cold calculation spreading through my chest like frost, and I look up at Jonah with steady eyes. "How do I destroy them?" I ask, and my voice doesn't shake, doesn't waver, sounds like it belongs to someone else entirely, someone harder, someone dangerous. Jonah writes down 2 names on a napkin and slides it across to me: Serena Kwan, financial advisor, and Victor Lane, divorce attorney specializing in complex fraud cases. "These people can help you fight back. Help you clear your name and take back everything they've stolen," he says, and I memorize the names like they're weapons. I leave the cafe holding that envelope like it's exactly what it is: a weapon, evidence, the blueprint for war, the contents of my old life and the foundation for my new one. The woman who walked into that cafe was a betrayed wife trying to understand why her husband stopped loving her, trying to make sense of where things went wrong. The woman who walks out is someone entirely different. Someone who understands that this was never about love at all. It was always about money and power and using me until I was no longer useful. Adrian thought he was building a new life with Miranda while carefully dismantling mine. Thought I'd never notice the pieces of myself disappearing one signature at a time. Serena Kwan's office is sleek and minimal, all glass and steel, and she greets me with a handshake that feels solid, grounding, like she's someone who deals in facts, not feelings. I hired her to run a discreet audit of all our shared assets, every account and property and investment Adrian and I built together over 10 years of what I thought was partnership. She spreads papers across her desk with careful precision, and each one feels like a small detonation. Another explosion in the minefield my life has become. "The deed to your home was transferred 6 months ago to a shell company registered under Miranda Holt's name," Serena says, her voice professional but not unkind, like she delivers this kind of news often. 6 months ago, I was decorating our bedroom, planting roses in the garden, painting the kitchen walls that soft yellow I loved, making a home I thought we shared. All while Adrian was systematically erasing my name from the property deed, forging my signature, stealing the house I'd poured my heart into, the house where I'd imagined growing old. Another forged signature, another piece of my life stolen while I slept beside him, trusting that marriage meant something, that love meant protection, not destruction. He's been erasing you from everything methodically, strategically, like someone who's been planning this for a very long time, Serena continues, and I feel the death of something inside me that I can't get back. That afternoon I meet with Victor Lane, the divorce lawyer Lila recommended, and he's exactly what I need, sharp, no nonsense, with eyes that have seen every kind of betrayal and can't be shocked. I show him everything: the photographs, the bank records, the forged documents, the house deed, the offshore accounts, the entire architecture of Adrian's deception laid out like evidence at trial. Victor leans back in his chair, studies me carefully, and says something that changes everything. You have a case that could ruin him completely, take back everything, and destroy his career. I authorize him to begin building the case in secret. No filings yet, just preparation, gathering evidence, constructing the legal framework for Adrian's total annihilation. That night, I go home and cook Adrian's favorite meal: beef tenderloin with roasted vegetables, the recipe his mother taught me, the one he requests on special occasions. He comes home to the smell of dinner and smiles at me like nothing is wrong, like he hasn't stolen my home and forged my name and tried to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. "This is amazing, thank you," he says, kissing my forehead, and I smile back, playing the role of devoted wife one last time, giving the performance of my lifetime. Inside, I'm completely numb, and I realize with startling clarity that the woman who loved him died the moment he confessed. What he's living with now is a ghost with a plan. I lie in bed next to him that night, listening to him snore peacefully, like he doesn't have a care in the world, like he's won, like I'm defeated. But I'm not defeated. I'm strategizing, calculating, planning his destruction with the same methodical precision he used to try to destroy me, learning from the master who thought he was so much smarter. I whisper into the darkness where only I can hear, where he sleeps oblivious and comfortable and completely unprepared. You have no idea what's coming for you. Because what Adrian doesn't understand yet is that he didn't just betray his wife. He created his own destroyer, trained her in silence and patience, taught her exactly how ruthless she needed to become. The next few weeks become a carefully choreographed performance, where I play the perfect wife by day and architect of destruction by night, every smile hiding strategy, every kiss concealing calculation. While Adrian stays late at the office with Miranda, I have my own secret meetings: Victor's law office, Serena's financial firm, coffee shops where Jonah hands me surveillance reports in unmarked folders. Every late night at work for him is matched by my own clandestine appointments, building the case piece by piece, brick by brick, creating a fortress of evidence he'll never escape. I become fluent in legal terminology and financial strategies, learning the language of war from people who fight these battles for a living and know how to win them completely. Serena works quietly to legally reclaim assets, opening accounts in my name only, transferring money into places Adrian doesn't know exist, building me a financial foundation for the life after this one ends. Victor drafts divorce papers that read less like a dissolution of marriage and more like an indictment: adultery, fraud, forgery, embezzlement, each charge supported by mountains of documentation. Jonah continues his surveillance with meticulous precision, documenting every meeting between Adrian and Miranda, every suspicious transaction, every hotel visit, every lie captured in timestamps and photographs. I catalog everything myself, too: dates, times, receipts, screenshots of text messages, building redundancy into the evidence because I can't afford a single gap in the timeline of his betrayal. Adrian grows more reckless as the weeks pass, his arrogance blinding him to the trap closing around him, and he starts leaving his phone unlocked on the counter, like he's daring me to look. I do look, of course, and I photograph everything: conversations with Miranda about their future together, discussions of the offshore accounts, casual admissions of guilt he thinks are private. He even brags to me about new investment opportunities with Miranda, his eyes bright with excitement about money he's stealing, about a life he's building on the foundation of my destruction. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I say it's best served with a paper trail, recorded conversations, and a lawyer on speed dial ready to strike. One Thursday evening, Adrian tells me he's going away for the weekend with his team. Some leadership retreat that I know is just another lie, another hotel room with Miranda. I smile warmly, kiss him goodbye, tell him to have a wonderful time and that I'll miss him, playing the devoted wife so convincingly I almost believe it myself. The moment his car pulls out of the driveway, I'm on the phone with Victor, Serena, and Jonah, my voice steady and cold. Monday morning, we end this. Everything goes live simultaneously. What Adrian doesn't know as he drives away smiling is that I've already frozen the offshore accounts, already filed alerts with the bank, already sent the anonymous evidence package to Holt Dynamics' internal audit department. While he thought he was winning, building his new life one stolen dollar at a time, I was dismantling everything he had, and his arrogance became the tool of his own destruction. The unlocked phone, the careless conversations, the bragging about investments. He handed me every weapon I needed because he never thought I was smart enough to use them. By the time Monday morning arrives, the war will already be over, and he just doesn't know he's already lost everything that ever mattered to him. I spend the weekend in our empty house, not sad or anxious, but calm, peaceful even, like someone who's finished a long, exhausting project and is just waiting to see the final result. Monday morning arrives cold and clear, and I wake before dawn with a strange sense of calm, like this is just another ordinary day instead of the day I destroy my husband's entire existence. I brew coffee the way I always do, set the table with 2 cups, 2 plates, toast and jam, maintaining the domestic routine one last time before it all ends forever. Adrian comes downstairs at his usual time, still half asleep, expecting breakfast and small talk and the comfortable predictability of a wife who asks no questions and causes no problems. "What are you thinking for dinner tonight?" he asks casually, pouring himself orange juice, completely oblivious to the envelope sitting on the table between us like a loaded gun. I hand him his coffee with a smile, then slide the envelope across the table slowly, deliberately, and say in my calmest voice, "I think you should read this before we discuss dinner plans." He opens it without concern, probably expecting bills or school fundraiser forms, and I watch his face drain of color as he processes what he's seeing. Divorce papers attached to photographs, bank records, forged signatures, every crime documented in brutal detail. His hands start shaking so badly the papers rattle, and he tries to speak but words fail him, his mouth opening and closing like he's forgotten how language works. What is this?" he finally manages, his voice cracking, eyes darting between the evidence and my face, searching for some explanation that makes this less catastrophic. "While you were busy planning my destruction, I was planning yours," I say calmly, sipping my coffee like we're discussing vacation plans instead of the complete annihilation of his life. He tries to defend himself, stammering about misunderstandings and explanations, but when that doesn't work, his fear transforms into anger, the way cornered animals always lash out when trapped. "You can't do this to me. You don't understand what you're doing. This will ruin everything," he shouts, standing up so fast his chair tips backward and crashes to the floor. I don't flinch, don't react to his rage, just meet his eyes with ice-cold satisfaction and deliver the final blow. "I already did it, Adrian. The company received an anonymous tip this morning about your embezzlement scheme." His phone starts buzzing on the table, lighting up with incoming calls. Work, legal department, HR, all the dominoes falling exactly as I planned them, exactly on schedule. He lunges for his phone with shaking hands, and I can see panic replacing anger as he realizes this isn't a threat or a negotiation. It's already done, already over. He expected breakfast this morning, expected coffee and toast and a wife who'd silently accept whatever crumbs of affection he threw her way, but he got the end of his world instead. And honestly, watching him realize he'd underestimated me, watching his arrogance crumble into terror, tasted better than anything I'd ever cooked for him in 10 years of marriage. I finish my coffee slowly, savoring every sip, then gather my purse and car keys while he frantically answers calls, his voice desperate and pleading with whoever's on the other end. "Where are you going?" he asks between calls, and there's something almost childlike in his panic, like he still thinks I might stay and help him, might save him from consequences. "Away from you," I say simply, and I walk out the door without looking back, leaving him sitting in the ruins of the life he destroyed when he stopped seeing me as human. His career was already over before he even opened that envelope. his reputation already in flames, and by the time he understands the full scope of what I've done, it will be far too late to stop it. Holt Dynamics launches a full internal investigation within hours of receiving the anonymous evidence package, and I watch it all unfold from a safe distance, receiving updates from Jonah like dispatches from a battlefield. Miranda is placed on immediate administrative leave by Tuesday morning, her office sealed, her access to company systems revoked, her carefully constructed kingdom crumbling in real time. Adrian is summoned for questioning by corporate legal that same afternoon, and I imagine him sitting in that sterile conference room, sweating through his expensive suit, finally understanding what it means to be caught. I'm not at the office to witness it myself. I'm at home, sipping tea, reading Jonah's text updates with the kind of calm satisfaction that comes from watching justice finally arrive on schedule. Within 48 hours, the company freezes all accounts tied to Miranda and Adrian, and forensic accountants discover the full scope of the embezzlement. Hundreds of thousands funneled through shell companies and offshore accounts. Every transaction bears my forged signature, but Victor has already submitted documentation proving I had no knowledge or access to these accounts, clearing my name while cementing their guilt. The evidence is overwhelming and irrefutable, a paper trail so obvious I wonder how they thought they'd ever get away with it, how arrogance made them so recklessly stupid. Adrian comes home that evening looking pale and trembling, his usual confidence replaced by something that looks like terror, and he tries to convince me it's all a misunderstanding, a clerical error, something fixable. "Ibrüche, is it?" I ask calmly, looking up from my book with mild interest, like we're discussing something inconsequential, instead of his complete destruction, because they seem to have quite a lot of evidence. He begs me to help him, to tell the investigators I knew nothing about the accounts, and the irony is almost poetic. The man who tried to frame me is now asking me to save him. "Please, you have to tell them you didn't know anything. You have to help me fix this," he pleads, his voice cracking with desperation, and I just smile and say absolutely nothing. Watching him beg for my help was almost poetic, watching karma work with such perfect precision that I couldn't have scripted it better myself if I'd tried. By Friday, both Adrian and Miranda are terminated for cause, their names flagged in every industry database, their professional reputations destroyed beyond any possibility of recovery. Miranda's personal assets are frozen pending the investigation, and I hear through Jonah that her former allies are distancing themselves, refusing her calls, pretending they never knew her well. She even tries to contact me through a mutual acquaintance, offering to take down Adrian together with information she claims I don't have. But it's far too late for alliances or bargaining. They're both already ruined, both already drowning, and I'm not interested in throwing either of them a lifeline when they tried so hard to push me under. That weekend, Adrian receives a certified letter delivered to our door. The company is suing him for damages, and the district attorney's office is considering criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement. He opens it with shaking hands while I watch from the kitchen doorway, and when he looks at me with desperate, pleading eyes, I simply turn away and go back to making my coffee. The certified letter sits on the table like a death certificate, official and final and irreversible, the kind of document that changes lives permanently and without appeal. His empire didn't just crack, it burned to the ground completely, and I had the satisfaction of watching every single flame while sitting safely beyond the reach of the heat. 6 months after the divorce is finalized, I'm standing in a modern office space with floor-to-ceiling windows, sunlight streaming through glass, and my name etched on the door. Illyra Strategies. The divorce settlement was generous. I walked away with the house Adrian tried to steal, the investments he tried to hide, and enough money to either retreat from the world or rebuild myself completely. I chose to rebuild, and with Serena's guidance, I transformed the settlement into seed capital for my own consulting firm, turning pain into profit, betrayal into business strategy. My company specializes in strategic consulting for executives navigating corporate politics, financial restructuring, and crisis management. Essentially, I help people survive the kind of destruction I barely survived myself. Ironically, several of my first clients are former colleagues of Miranda from Holt Dynamics, People who watched her fall and respected how I handled the situation with quiet precision and devastating effectiveness. They come to me because they recognize something in me now: a sharp mind, a calm authority, the kind of strategic thinking that only comes from having fought a war and won it completely. I hire a small team, all women who've been underestimated in their careers, overlooked for promotions, told they're too emotional or not aggressive enough by men who never saw them coming. I become a mentor to them, teaching them what I learned the hard way: that silence can be power, that patience can be strategy, that seeming weak is sometimes the smartest move you can make. One evening, working late at my desk, I receive an unexpected message from someone named Beatrice Holt, Miranda's estranged sister, someone I didn't know existed until her name appeared in my inbox. She thanks me for exposing Miranda, explains that her sister had been manipulating family finances for years, controlling elderly relatives, forging documents just like she did to me. My actions inadvertently freed their family from Miranda's control, triggered investigations that revealed decades of financial abuse, gave them back power they thought they'd lost forever. I realized then that my revenge had ripple effects I never anticipated, justice that extended beyond my own story, protecting people I'd never met from a predator I'd helped expose. They say the best revenge is success, and maybe that's true, but I think the best revenge is becoming so successful that your betrayer's name becomes just a footnote in your origin story. Adrian is somewhere out there facing criminal charges and financial ruin, and Miranda's reputation is destroyed beyond repair, but I barely think about them anymore except as cautionary tales I sometimes share with clients. I stand at my office window as the sun sets over the city, painting everything gold and orange, sipping coffee from a mug that says nevertheless. She persisted, feeling powerful and free and completely at peace. The woman Adrian tried to destroy doesn't exist anymore, and in her place is someone stronger, sharper, more dangerous, someone who learned that the best way to survive betrayal is to become the kind of person who can't be betrayed again. 1 year after the divorce is finalized, I'm sitting in my office reviewing a $500,000 contract with a Fortune 500 client, my signature worth more now than it ever was on any document Adrian forged. Illyra Strategies has exceeded every projection, every goal I set when I started with nothing but settlement money and a determination to prove that destruction doesn't have to be permanent. My assistant brings in the afternoon mail, and among the business correspondence and industry magazines, there's a plain envelope with handwriting I recognize instantly, even though there's no return address. I open it slowly, already knowing who it's from, already knowing what it will say, because desperate men are predictable in their desperation. Adrian's handwriting is messier than I remember, shaky, like he wrote this in a moving vehicle or with trembling hands that couldn't quite steady themselves. He writes that he's facing criminal fraud charges, that Miranda disappeared the moment things got serious and left him to take the fall alone, that his lawyer says prison is likely. He's broke, living in a studio apartment, estranged from his family who won't return his calls, and he actually begs, for my help, for mercy, for money to hire better legal representation. I know I don't deserve it, but please, you're the only one who might still care enough to help me, he writes, and I almost laugh at the audacity. The delusion that I might still carry love where only indifference remains. I read the letter once, just once, then fold it carefully and walk to the fireplace in my office, the one I had installed, specifically because fire has a way of making things final. I toss the letter in without hesitation, watching the paper catch flame, curl at the edges, turn black, and disintegrate into ash that means nothing and weighs nothing. I feel nothing watching it burn. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even the bitter pleasure of revenge fulfilled. Just a vast, peaceful indifference that tells me I've finally, truly moved on. He thought his confession would break me that night a year ago, thought destroying me would clear a path for his new life, but instead, it broke every chain I didn't know I was wearing. I reflect on the journey sometimes, how I went from a woman who questioned her own instincts to someone who built an empire on the ruins of her old life. Adrian's betrayal was a gift in disguise. It forced me to stop being small, stop being silent, stop accepting crumbs when I deserved the whole feast. Now when people ask how I became a millionaire, how I built such a successful firm in just over a year, I smile and say, I learned from the best teacher, betrayal. They usually laugh, thinking I'm joking, not realizing I mean every word with complete sincerity. That evening, I stand at my office window with coffee in hand, watching city lights blink on as darkness falls, and I whisper something only I can hear into the glass. Thank you for confessing, Adrian. Thank you for being cruel enough to show me who you really were. Thank you for freeing me from the life I was too loyal to leave on my own. He thought he was the villain who would destroy the hero, but he was actually just the catalyst who created her, the match that started a fire he never saw coming. The ultimate revenge isn't that I destroyed him. It's that I don't think about him anymore except as a footnote, a lesson learned, a chapter that ended so a better story could begin. I don't hate him anymore, and I realize with startling clarity that I pity him, which is somehow the coldest revenge of all. To care so little that even hatred would require too much energy. He's somewhere out there facing consequences while I'm here living a life he made possible by being exactly the villain I needed to become the hero of my own story. And as I turn away from the window to review tomorrow's client presentations, I smile, because the woman reflected in that glass is someone I'm genuinely proud to be. The millionaire he created by mistake, the empire he built by trying to tear me down, the phoenix that rose from ashes he thought would bury me forever.